Okay. 11 March 2020 from Chiang Mai, Thailand. This is Michael Yon. Looks like Italy is shut down by the Wuhan virus, Xi's disease. By the way, I noticed that Australian 60 Minutes, they called it Xi Jinping's disease on Australian 60 Minutes as I watched tonight. I think it was a Sunday edition or so. But I've been calling it Xi's disease for a while. It looks like it's picking up at this point, which is important. I've actually named things in the past, but you might not have noticed. For instance, the AFPAC War. Nobody actually seems to have known where that name came from. But if you actually trace it back, it was actually from me. And I called it the AFPAC War because you could not understand Afghanistan without understanding Pakistan, because they were inseparable. It was like understanding Siamese twins by ignoring one of the twins. Well, interestingly, yeah, Italy has basically shut down schools, bars, main functions, churches, and let's see here. I see. Oh, hello in Kentucky. I see some comments coming on. I should have checked to see how I see somebody from Washington. How the Michael says, I mistitled the video. Uh-oh, what did it say? What does it say? I don't know what the video says. It should say live. Michael Yon, and it's about the virus. It's called the flu, Joe says. No, it's called the Wuhan virus or Xi's disease or the China plague or anything but COVID-19, that's for sure. And it's definitely not the flu. In any case, for people who think it's the flu, you're in the wrong place because this is a little bit slightly above your education level. This is not the flu, and everybody has had plenty of time at this point to figure that out, unless they've been out in a cave or maybe in which case you get a break. But otherwise, it's way too late to still be behind that game, given the fact that we're in a global pandemic at this point. Interestingly, while Italy has basically shut down, it started in northern Italy and then moved beyond, and now the entire country, you can still get flights in and out of Italy. For instance, landing in London. I was checking flights just an hour ago. In fact, I was checking flights from Milano, which is in the north. If you've been to Milano, you know what it's like. It's a nice place. I've been there quite a few times. But you can get a flight from Milano right now. I was just looking on Expedia. You can fly straight, nonstop from Milano straight to Washington, D.C. And so many flights. There was Air France, Delta, United, Breaks Guitars, Brussels Airlines, Lufthansa, Swiss Air, Air Canada, KLM, which is Dutch, of course. There's so many airlines that are flying direct flights straight from Milano to Washington, D.C., much less London. Yeah, this is amazing. Now, there are some countries that have been doing this right. Singapore, South Korea, it looks like, and Hong Kong. Yes, I just called Hong Kong a country. But there are some countries like Hong Kong, I would have thought would be one of the worst hit right now, because the Mongkok area of Hong Kong, where I spent months last year to cover the insurgency, is the most densely populated area in the world. And yet that's not happened because the Hong Kongers are very intelligent, and they realize this is not the flu because they're not unintelligent people. And they realize that social separation and wearing masks is important. And so they're wearing masks. If you look at, and my Hong Konger friends who are sending me messages constantly, you look at the videos and photos, because, Hong Kong didn't let me in last time on February 5th. They deported me or denied me re-entry, let's say. And but I'm following news daily and almost hourly at times from people on the ground, and almost everybody is wearing masks in Hong Kong. They shut down schools way up front. They'd been through the SARS before, and now I saw complaints tonight, though, that some of the Western schools, like a Canadian school, are still open or going to be open. I'm unclear on the details. But the local Hong Konger, this is in Hong Kong, but the Hong Kongers realize how deadly this is, and some are upset that some of these international schools are going to open up early or have opened up already. I'm unsure of the details. But because, this is one of those things where we're all in it together, like drunk driving. If somebody wants to go drinking and driving or drink, way out in the desert where there's nobody around, it's like, knock yourself out. Who cares? But if you want to do it in downtown Los Angeles, it's a big deal. And the same with not wearing a mask or thinking this is the flu and you can just cough on everybody and it's not a big old deal. It is a big deal. And the United States is not taking it seriously. United Kingdom is not taking it seriously. For instance, what's it called? Cheltenham Day Festival, where the big horse race and all that. 250,000 expected to gather there. UK has not even shut it down. You can't even make up this stuff. It's no wonder the empire fell apart when they're making decisions like this. And I say that with total seriousness. You know how much respect I have for the British. It's immense. But they're making errors that are just as bad as those that Italy made, which is now probably going to destroy the Italian economy, what's left of it. And in the United States, we're making equally terrible decisions on this. People are like, oh, well, President Trump shut off the flights from Hubei province. Big deal. You'll see. Just stay tuned. Now, it looks like, according to Gabriel Leong, the Dr. Gabriel Leong, he's a Hong Kong infectious disease expert who was at the front end of the SARS epidemic before. He's widely recognized as as probably the expert on this disease. It looks like it kills about people that are over 65 at a rate about 20 times greater than those below the age of 65, and it's the main factor in mortality is age. And as he mentioned, nursing homes and retirement homes, when this sweeps through nursing homes, it's going to wipe them out. It's highly infectious, and some countries like the United States and United Kingdom and some others are just not doing enough, and we're going to get damaged. But it looks like South Korea, it looks like Hong Kong and Singapore and Taiwan have all reduced the R0 number, the basically the spread of the disease to such a level that the infectious disease experts say the penetration of the disease will probably still be about the same anyway. But what you do is you spread it out so that you don't overwhelm your hospital systems. And the United States hospital system, if I were a betting man, I would bet 90% chance our hospital systems will be overwhelmed. This is based on what I'm hearing experts say. I haven't heard anybody make this bet, but I would bet 90% chance they'll be overwhelmed by sometime in May. It's going big time. St. Patrick's Day, the Irish have been smart. They've closed it. Cannes Film Festival still not closed. One of my filmmaking friends sent me an article earlier today, and she mentioned the reason that the film festival is not closed is just insurance, because if they cancel it themselves, they'll have to pay. They'll lose all their money. Actually, let me check comments real quick. Let's see. All right. Okay, okay, we'll get to Jim Buckley is saying, do I think the China plague was man-made? I don't know. I mean, we've all got imaginations, and we can all imagine conspiracies and whatnot, and it could have been, but I just don't know, and I'm in no position to know either. But what we do see is this disease part of it is only one aspect. And this is remember, I've been warning since January that we should be shutting flights and that we should be, closing schools and that sort of closing the U.S. borders, not just a few flights. And now we lost all of February. Now we're deep into March and still haven't done it. And no end in sight for the United States at this point. Now, it's affecting the economy. We can see that huge effect already. President Trump now in the full reactive mode, not proactive, very reactive, and cutting payroll tax, which is wow. I bet a lot of employers are loving that, and employees as well. But that's the U.S. economy is going to certainly need some stimulation there. Now, Saudi Arabia and Russia with their price war, quite interesting. It makes me wonder what KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is up to with those massive oil cuts. Is this actually an attack on our economy in disguise? Our allies, the Saudis, of which, for people, and this is not conspiracy theory, it is crystal clear that top members of the Saudi government at the time were directly, let's say, connected to the 9/11 attacks. It's not conspiracy theory. I mean, this is like straight up. It's like crystal clear. It's amazing that we of course invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. In reality, the bulk of the attack clearly came from Saudi Arabia. Nobody came from Iraq, and nobody came from Afghanistan. How many Afghans or Iraqis have even done terrorist attacks in the United States? Does anybody know? I think that would be approximately 0, something like that. Yeah. So anyway, you can get a flight right now, round trip. I was just go to Expedia and check it yourself. Look up, flights from Milano, Italy, which is the northern part of Italy, hugely affected by this, straight to Washington, D.C. or London. You can get flights right now. Oh, and the hotel that I booked in, because I did a package deal, right? I booked, I didn't actually book it. I didn't pay for it, but I went through all the steps on Expedia, and it was Air France, and then I booked the Watergate hotel, right? Or I didn't actually book it, but you can go straight to the Watergate, get those $2,000 rooms, and also a rental car. You can get all that on Expedia right now. Go straight from the pandemic, one of the most infected areas in the world at this point, and fly straight on over to Washington, D.C. How's that? That's how seriously we're taking it. That's how seriously the United States is taking it. While saying we're doing all this stuff, we have almost nobody tested at this point in the United States. Now you see the CDC saying we put all these tests out there. Ask them how many have actually been tested. Practically none on the scale of things. As of yesterday, it was about 1,500 or 1,600, right? Let's see how many it is in the next week or so. So in any case, CDC is now telling, or they, at least as of a day or two ago, telling people over 60 to stay home. There's still many anti-maskers in the various U.S. government people coming online saying, I call them anti-maskers because they're saying that people shouldn't wear masks, because they don't help, which is utter lie. They work. They definitely work. I mean, that's why Hong Kongers and Taiwanese and Singaporeans and South Koreans are all wearing masks. And these are the only people that seem to have got it under control. And yet I keep seeing people today and yesterday saying China's finally got it under control. We've known from the beginning we can't trust Chinese numbers. And why would we be able to trust them now? But let's just say they do have it under control and they're getting everybody back into the factories. Infectious disease experts say what you're doing is you're basically shoveling the burning coals right back into the furnace. I mean, you'll probably just re-spark the whole thing back into a blaze again, because it's not gone away. They've just, if the numbers are roughly accurate, they've just reduced the R0 number, the transmissibility. All right, let's try to take some questions here. Let's see. M Technique, we need a good body of doctors and health experts that can say mask help for both herd immunity and personal protection. Then we can press that out to the anti-maskers. We already know. I mean, this is already the reason that that some, like the CDC and others, are saying that masks don't work is because we have a mask shortage. Because, since 1918, which is more than 100 years, and we've had all this time to build a strategic mask reserve, we don't have one. So now the United States has less than 1% of the masks that we need. And so our health care care workers. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I've been studying all night and all into today. They have actually not. They don't have enough masks for our hospitals. There's not enough masks for our hospitals. Now we saw, I think it may have been in Atlanta or somewhere in Georgia, I believe. Some first responders went to some call, and now they're quarantined. And we've seen so many people getting quarantined now, like a U.S. general and many military people are getting quarantined now. This is going to have a massive effect on our military readiness when our submarines and battleships and aircraft carriers suddenly have a lot of cases aboard, which is certainly going to happen. Of course, if it's our nuclear submarines, we'd probably like to keep that top secret, but that probably won't last very long. So let's see. Sonia Chappell says, what do you think about USA? What do you think? More cases, cruise ships should shut down for a couple months? Oh, yeah. More cases for sure in the United States. How about, instead of saying 100%, let's say 99.99999% chance there'll be more cases in the United States. Add a couple more nines to that. Yeah, I would bet my life on it. Let's put it that way. Microbiologist Dr. Yon from Hong Kong says this disease is not going away anytime soon, at least not going to end this year. None of them say it's going to go away this year. If anything, it's with us forever, is what some of them are saying, that it's become endemic already. Because, anyway, let's see. Ryan Trainer. Genetic variability plays a role too. Some younger people seem to get seriously ill despite being healthy. Cecilia Thompson. So many here in BC, Canada, British Columbia, still calling it just a mild flu. But we had our first death in British Columbia yesterday. Yeah, it's not the flu. It's so clearly not the flu. And it's just again, the effects of the virus itself, which could kill tens of millions of people, and at this rate, probably will. I don't know, but that's sort of how it's shaping up. And I've been paying attention since early January. I'm not an infectious disease expert, and I'm not an Army general either, but I was amazingly accurate on calling the courses of the Iraq and Afghanistan war. And a lot of this was from just paying really close attention and sorting through who I think knows what they're talking about and who doesn't, and just paying 24/7 attention to that. And then also going out and seeing things with my own eyes. And that has been a winning formula for years. That's why that's one of the reasons my work has not just withstood the test of time, but actually to a really astonishing level for those who have actually followed it long enough to see it. But it's a result of incredible amounts of homework, just 7 days a week. Same with this. This is all I do now, is pay attention to what's happening with this pandemic and the secondary effects, which can be bigger than the initial virus, which could kill tens of millions of people, and it's starting to look like it will. We'll see. But the economic meltdowns, for instance, of Korea, of China, of the United States is clearly taking some rib shots right now. All of Europe. I mean, it's funny how when Italy suddenly has a problem, Germany's like, well, that's your problem, Italy, as opposed to, so much for the EU, huh? Interestingly, countries like the United States and Thailand, I mean, the United States, we're about to pay big time for we've got a great medical system in some ways, if you've got money, right? And we all know that we have problems with people not being able to get medical attention in the United States. That's a huge problem. And right now, it is certainly a national security issue of the first order. This is an unbelievably perilous time for the United States because so many people just can't get tested or can't afford it. Well, first, we didn't have they're just now starting to ship the test out, the CDC. And who can afford it? For instance, what if you have a family of 4 or 5 people? I mean, that's a lot of money to go get a test. And if you think you have this disease, You're not going to schedule an appointment for next week for your whole family. The scientists already know this is happening in family clusters. One person that comes in the family brings it back to everybody. Now the whole family's got it. Then the kids go to school, and there you go. Stanford obviously closed. Other schools are closing. Every school in the United States should have been closed a month ago. And our chance at containment, there's people are still talking about whether or not containment's possible. We're way beyond containment. This is like the Australians watching their country burn down in a big forest fire with embers flying everywhere in dry country and high winds, and people asking if containment is possible. No, it's way beyond that. They're down to mitigation at some point. We're down to mitigation. Mitigation at this point would still mean closing all schools immediately, which we haven't done. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's crazy that we haven't closed all the schools in the United States. It's crazy that all the schools across Europe haven't closed, like they did in, for instance, Hong Kong very early on. And Hong Kong, so densely populated, still has managed to control this. It's unbelievable that Hong Kong has been able to control this. I thought Hong Kong was going to get slaughtered, but the Hong Kong people, so well educated and so much cultural discipline, have managed to reduce the impact dramatically. Unbelievable progress from the Hong Kongers. But now, of course, there's the disease will still penetrate, but they've certainly mitigated any initial giant spike. Now they're going to have to worry about us reinfecting them, right? I mean, it's a weird situation for them. Yeah. Earlyenda says, Anderson, we do need to close the schools. In Air Force, it was called current events and part of every promotions test. I don't know what you're talking about. So, yeah. There was a lot of information today that I've seen from the U.S. government. I'm not actually going to read it out because it's reached the point where it's like, and this house got blown over and that house got blown over. At some point when you get into a hurricane, you're just like, all the roofs are flying off, and and we've reached that point. So like Colorado declared a state of emergency. It's just a matter of time until all 50 states declare states of emergency. It's just a matter of time until everybody's like, my neighbor got it. It's just a matter of time until, so many senators and representatives have it, or either dead or in quarantine or in the hospital or whatever, that we won't be able to keep track of them anymore. At first it was Ted Cruz and somebody else, right? Who was the other one? And by now it might be more, because I haven't looked in hours on that. So it's just a matter of time until it's just it gets market penetration. It's really heading there fast. And again, UK having a huge event with 250,000 people still going ahead with it. And then you got Germany and France saying, no gatherings of over 1,000 people, which is utterly ridiculous. It's okay. Over 1,000. Okay. I get it. But also it should be all the schools are closed. All the bars are closed. All the restaurants are closed. Everything should be closed for now. Otherwise, we can either meet this virus with somewhat on our terms, or we can just meet the virus all on the virus's terms. And which is what we are electing to do in many countries, right? And the economic effects can be unknown at this point, because they're so complex. A lot of the viral issues, normal educated people like we can understand, even if we're not infectious disease experts. If you've got some good level of education, you can understand a lot of what they're saying. If you're not a virologist or a microbiologist or somebody that studies it in detail, you won't be able to actually do the science on it. But we can understand the basic concepts, like the math involved and how it spreads. We can all understand that. We can get that. Actually, it's well within our capacity to understand that without having a PhD in virology or epidemiology, right? We can all understand the basics if we have especially a good math background, which I happen to have. So, I mean, and many of us do. And you can have a background in, let's say, an MBA or something like that. A lot of the same math still applies, right? And then it moves over into the world of economics and finance. That gets to be a lot more complex. And that's way beyond my capacity to understand all the different variables. There are so many different variables on the global economy and wild cards that we cannot account for at all. For instance, Saudi Arabia, boom, just drops oil prices, right? I mean, seemingly out of the blue, right? And so it could be anything like that. There could be a war start tomorrow. South Korea could, hit Tokyo with some missiles tomorrow, and here we go with that. Or it could be China, lands boats on Taiwan, or there can be so many different wild cards. It's just thousands and thousands of wild cards, and many of them can be so big that they can change the entire texture of what's going on. So, but when it comes to the actual disease, a lot of us can understand enough of it that we can actually track with, for instance, Dr. Gabriel Leong, who happens to be a gifted teacher, because he can explain this in on a level that average people can understand. And like, for instance, the various factors, we can understand those. That is within our grasp. But the larger picture on the economics, the geopolitics, that's beyond even the smartest people out there. That reaches the level of art and practically witchcraft. I mean, that reaches the level of, there's so many factors, so many, geese and black swans flying around out there, like Saudi Arabia dropping oil prices. I mean, these things are just, you have to take them as they come. Okay. Maryland, let's see. Erlinda's in Maryland, and the governor is doing a good job keeping us informed. We received an email from our school system yesterday doing a survey wanting to know if your kid has internet at home. Well, I think we can tell what they're thinking from that, but he should be asking that after all the schools have been dismissed. So, alrighty. I don't actually even know if this is still feeding out. Because there's nobody commenting on anymore, so it could have actually lost signal. But so let's see, and if it is feeding out, I'll try to answer a couple more, and if there's no comments that come on, then I'll go ahead and shut down. All right, Michael Lester. Okay. Michael Lester saying, just because COVID-19 appears highly infectious and mutates is no reason for healthy young people to be concerned, right? Well, I mean, it mutates, obviously. And keep in mind that this one is clearly weighted towards the older you get, the higher your risk, right? Although some young people have died. But remember, the 1918 pandemic killed mostly people 30 and below. I don't know what this is going to mutate to do. And when Gabriel Leong talks, I listen to everything he says that I can see. When he talks, his words are always couched in caution and unknowns, like he doesn't know either. And he's like the man, and there's actually quite a lot of infectious disease experts out there. These wet markets that a lot of these diseases spring from are almost like, I mean, if this came from a wet market in Wuhan, right, which it looks like it did, I don't know, but if it did, other pandemics seem to have. It's almost like all these wet markets, even here in Thailand. There's one not far from me here in Chiang Mai. These things are all almost like nuclear weapons facilities that people have, except it's biological. I mean, when one of these things makes that jump, one of these viruses makes that jump over to us humans, and the next thing you know, I mean, it can be, the results can be global catastrophic health issues, not to mention economic issues, which can lead to war. One thing, well, we can talk about that all day long. Let me see here. Okay, Aaron says I'm still on, and Tony still on. Good. Oh, good. Okay, it's feeding out. Good. Good. One thing that concerns me about the United States in particular is the United States is a very stable country. I'm going to wipe some sweat. Actually, I'm going to turn the air conditioner on. Tell me if you hear it or not. You probably hear it turn on, but if there's any background noise, I'll turn it off. But one time I was at a place called the River's End restaurant at Nantahala Gorge in western North Carolina. I used to eat lunch there pretty often at the River's End restaurant. And I was sitting there with a friend, and we're looking at the river. It's a whitewater river where a lot of people, raft. And they get out right by the River's End restaurant. That's where they end their rafting trip. And we're looking at the stones in the river there. And I said, the United States is a lot like that river. There are a lot of stones and boulders underneath that could really cause problems for the United States. But as long as the water's high, money, as long as the economy's good, everybody will just go right on by. Everybody will just go to the end of the river and everything will be fine. And you'll hardly even bounce off any stones. But if that water goes low, then there's going to be people getting stuck. There's going to be all kinds of problems, right? In the United States, if the economy were to go into, say, a Great Depression type situation, well, we literally could go into a civil war. This is one of the reasons that people like me and Brian Kolfaja, Steve Bannon, and so many millions of other people are saying, build that wall. Build that wall. Immigration issues are incredibly important. We've already got enough organic issues that could rear their ugly heads and go into straight up war combat, right? Streets running free. This disease itself can knock out a substantial number of U.S. police forces so that they're not, when you call 911, nobody answers or nobody responds. And so, yeah, this can be a very big deal. All right. Tony says, do not hear AC. That's great. And, Surdip is saying, yes, I remember in early January, the big buzz was if there was any human-to-human transmission, it wasn't a certain thing to those looking in from outside China. Yeah. You can see it like in one interview that I know because I've seen my transcript with Jordan Harbinger. You can see he published it in February, but we did the interview in January. And I'm being crystal clear, using words that are as clear as this right now, that this could actually cause President Trump the election. And I was saying that in January because it was so clear, because I can see how this chain of events, not just plausibly, but, with the reasonable high level of possibility, if the disease is really that bad, the things that it can do to our economy and other economies will then directly lead to political issues, which can lead to wars. Again, with Saudi Arabia doing what Saudi Arabia is doing right now, just dropping oil prices, which is a direct attack on the United States oil production, whether it's intentional or it's as part of a fight with Russia is unknown to me. But the fact that Saudi Arabia picked right now to do it when we got these issues with the virus, I wrote an email to Steve Bannon tonight. And I said to Steve, something like, I hope you'll put something more on KSA tomorrow on the oil issues, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because, this is quite serious, obviously. And there's a deep well of there is no love in the United States for Saudi Arabia. I have no ounce of love. If I think that if Saudi Arabia is directly attacking the U.S. economy, and I said something to Steve in the email, and he responded immediately. I said, we can obviously do a lot more to their oil than the few little drones from the Yemenis, right? From Yemen, from the Houthis, right? We can do a lot more. If they start to attack our economy, I would not hesitate to attack their economy, like physically attack their economy. It's like, no, absolutely not. For all the defense that we've put up for Saudi Arabia, certainly also in our interest. It wasn't all because we love Saudi Arabia. We don't, and they don't love us, right? But if they're doing something that can start to cripple the United States at a time like this, that's a game changer with our relationship and permanent. Yes. Let's see. What is Sharon saying? Governor of New York is preparing a containment zone around the town that is a hot spot that started with the the one doctor to bring sick. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. They're not going to contain anything. They're just putting on dog and pony shows. There's not going to be containment at this point. But yeah. So, all right. So if there's not any more questions, I'll go ahead and cut off. Yeah, I'll cut off unless you've got something in particular that you want to say. Otherwise, I will cut off, and I want to continue to study. I didn't do the John Batchelor show this morning because I was sitting here doing a podcast, and I said, hey, I'm about to do the John Batchelor show with Gordon Chang, and did not realize that there had been a daylight savings time change. And so I looked at the emails, and they were asking me to call, so I called them. I was like, okay, let's go. And then they're like, why are you late? And I was like, uh-oh, it was daylight savings time. So I missed that show, but I'll be on Wednesday night on the John Batchelor show with Gordon Chang again. Okay, Jerry Fowler saying, did you read about the Democratic Denver City Councilwoman Candy? Let's see. So-and-so suggesting deliberately spreading COVID at Trump political rallies. I did not, but it certainly crossed my mind, and I've said it numerous times, that he's taking everybody, all these politicians that are taking chances out there, shaking hands and whatnot. First of all, they're setting hugely bad examples. And secondly, they're setting themselves up for a biological assassination. I mean, it's just too easy. And also flights open directly from Milano, Italy, straight to Washington, D.C. Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all those guys, they're all super smart. They'll be like, oh, wait, I can just fly right over to Washington and I can just start, first I'll get myself infected. That should be pretty easy. I'll get through all the security, land in Washington, and infect everything I can. And, I'll meet up with some of my other buddies and we'll just infect each other and infect everything we can. This is too easy. And if they're young, they know that they're not taking they're not even taking a big risk. And what are their chances of even getting caught doing it? And if they do get caught, they're just like, what are you talking about? I'm just a tourist, right? Yeah, I'm just a tourist that's going into the Smithsonian and everywhere else and going and shaking hands with as many Americans as possible. The opportunity for opportunistic biological terrorism here is tremendous. Hello in Texas. Please make sure if you're on my YouTube to hit the bell and hit the subscribe and then hit the bell so you get notifications. I don't see any comments coming on now from Facebook, so it kind of indicates to me that Facebook has probably been shut off of Facebook. So it looks like the only people on it, looks like at this point, are actually on YouTube. Hello, Robert in Texas. So it looks like actually YouTube has much better audio and video anyway. Let's see. The Asian is saying, why aren't countries closing their border or at least ban people from highly infected countries temporarily? Taiwan did it with mandatory 14 days quarantine period. It worked so well for them. Yeah, well, Taiwan did it because they have political courage, and also they have cultural discipline and a highly educated society, and they have leaders that won't come out and call this the flu. So they basically come out and said, okay. Okay, actually, do you see on my Facebook, is this even on my Facebook? It looks like it stopped. Let's see here. Let's see. I'll try to answer any questions that are to me. Otherwise, a lot of people are asking each other questions, it looks like, as well. Okay, Jerry Fowler, you sent a news link by Facebook Messenger, but are you seeing my video on Facebook right now? Let's see. I don't even know. It could be shut off. Oh, so Facebook is working right now, huh? I wonder why no comments are coming here from Facebook. Interesting. I'll look on my phone right here as well. Okay, and Barbara says it's on Facebook. Huh, so strange. Normally, most of the comments are coming from Facebook, not from YouTube, because there's more people on Facebook than YouTube. Facebook makes it, yeah, I see it there as well. Let me hold up my hand and see if it comes up. Let's see. It looks like maybe there's a delay there. I'm not sure if it is or not. Like, I don't see my hand up there yet. Still hasn't popped up. So maybe it's not really on my Facebook anymore. Oh, no, it is on. It's just got a long delay because my hand just went up. All right. So there's that length of delay. There are a lot of comments on Facebook, but they're not popping up here. So if you're on my Facebook and you're leaving comments, I'm not seeing your comments, and I don't know why. They were showing up before. I'm only seeing YouTube comments. So please go to my YouTube if you have comments. And Barbara's saying Facebook does not give notifications of your post either. Facebook denies it. I'm sorry, I was looking at my security, saw something happen. Facebook denies that they're actually truncating my feeds. Yeah. Okay. Anchors Away saying Johns Hopkins, Russia, real interesting, like unreal. Yeah. And Johns Hopkins continues to cite Chinese numbers, and then once Johns Hopkins cites the Chinese numbers, then everybody cites Johns Hopkins, and it's just amazing. And so Julie says Atlanta has closed 4 schools. They should close every school, every daycare center, every restaurant, bar, all those things should be closed. But they lack the political will to do this. And that includes churches. Did you see the priest that gave communion apparently to hundreds of people? Where was that? That was in Washington, D.C., right? It's probably now happened all over the place. Yeah. And Tony, okay, I got that, Tommy. Do I suggest any solar power generators, at least for the phones? I'm not using any at this point. I was actually almost went to buy one today because I found a store that has some here. But I haven't. And my thoughts on that is I have a lot of battery power already. And if the phones go down for any serious length of time, then our phones will probably go out here as well. That's why I actually have satellite gear being sent over. Actually, I had satellite gear in Hong Kong, and I some of it I don't have here with me at this point. But I thought if China actually does a severe invasion of Hong Kong, they already have troops there. But I'll tell you this now. I didn't tell a single person. I'll tell you now. I told Steve Bannon today, actually. My plan was to, if there was an invasion or a serious invasion from the Chinese troops in Hong Kong, I was going to go live in the jungle and use my sat gear to say what's going on. I'm not there anymore. They didn't let me in after February 5th, but I had scouted out where I was going to hide and everything. But satellite gear and shortwave radios will be the way for people to communicate if you don't have any way to do that at this point. Now, I did, when it comes to food security, I've been saying it since January. Make sure that you have enough food for at least 1 month. And I mean 1 month is like bare minimum. That's like rock bottom. I mean, I think it's actually crazy to have less than a month. Because the chances of something happening serious is significant enough that you don't want to be out of food. Ward Smith, my old childhood friend, saying National Guard deployed to New York community with largest. I can't read the rest of your comment here. Let's see. If you're on Facebook and you want to comment, go over to my YouTube. I can't see any Facebook comments. I'm only seeing YouTube. Oh, okay. Ward Smith is saying National Guard deployed to New York community with nation's largest cluster of you call it coronavirus. I'll call it Wuhan virus or the China plague. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I call it 2011? On the Janet is saying I called it 2011. I wonder how I did that. Huh. Interesting. Okay, I will do that if it'll allow me to change later. If not, it'll be messed up. Sorry about that. I wonder how I managed to do that. Okay. Yeah, Sonny's saying you have some Republican buddies saying that this virus is fake news. Well, they're wrong. They are so wrong. And you're stuck at Fort Benning for a course. Actually, our military should just lock down. Excuse me. It's not a dry cough. I don't have any symptoms. I'm not showing any symptoms to my knowledge at all. Okay. Oh, Janet says she does get post notifications when I go live on Facebook. Okay, good. Keto just came from Facebook. Great. You can see that when you come from Facebook and you look at the video quality here on YouTube, it is substantially better. It's like 10 times better, and the audio is better too. So RW is saying, if food for a month, what source? You talking about MREs or something similar? MREs is fine. I mean, if you get 30 MREs for one person, that's more than enough for a month. That's plenty. Those are meals ready to eat. That's military food. I've got all kinds of stuff like rice and cans and tuna and just all sorts of stuff that are, high in vitamins, various sorts of fish, especially, and black beans, all sorts of beans, so many things. But one of the things, and make sure you got plenty of spices so that that you enjoy your food is very important. Plenty of good salt and pepper. If you like Tabasco or spices or peppers, any sorts of stuff, don't forget the herbs and spices. That's really important because you want to be happy. Make sure that you have enough food, you have enough gas to cook on propane or butane, because if the electricity goes out, remember what I've been saying since January is systematically coming true now. For instance, I was saying just in the last, couple of weeks or so, or I think as long as back as January, maybe certainly early February, that at some point police, fire, and other people might not be able to respond because they get quarantined and that sort of thing. And now it's starting to happen. It's actually starting to happen, and it's already happening in Italy too, but it's already happening in the United States. So you get to the point where the people that operate our electrical grids and the telephone systems and whatnot, they just can't go to work. And because either they're sick or there's quarantine. And so we get into these situations where you could, and pandemics do this all the time in different countries, there's local pandemics. They're not all global, right? But there could be like numerous countries in Africa or something like that. But often it will knock out the water and it'll knock out electricity. That's why you need to have plenty of water, have plenty of food, and just in case it knocks down the supply chain, which is vital. And that's why I keep talking about different ways to purify your water. Water is vital. Now, look, every time, and remember another thing that's really important. We know that these I need to look into the camera. This is one of my water aids here. But one of the things we know that in disasters, first of all, these disasters aren't going to give us a break just because we got a global pandemic that could be the worst thing since 1918 and potentially even a lot worse. We're not going to get a break from tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes. We're not going to get a break from wars. We're not going to get a break from any of that stuff. So and economic collapses that could happen, like Italy's almost certainly about to just be broken. So we're not going to get a break. And the times that things are really worse, let's say a hurricane or an earthquake or a tornado, that's the last time in the world you ever want to get sick, because now you're already in a bad situation. Your house has been blown away or whatever. And now you don't have any good water to drink. You drink bad water, and now you're sick. And, it can kill babies in one day, and adults for that matter. There's so many things you can get from bad water. hepatitis, typhoid. Oh, just long list, And so there's various things. Imagine, it's Hurricane Katrina, but there's been many, 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 many more. As soon as these big hurricanes and whatnot happen, you got people sitting up on the roofs in the sun for 2 days and they got no water, waiting for a boat or a helicopter to come get them. That's a big deal. And so that's why make sure you got water filters and other water purification methods. I'm going to say it for like the 20th time. And I don't make any money off this. I make these. I've used this exact Katadyn filter, not just this model, but this one since about 2002. It's a Katadyn pocket filter. Now the ones that they make now are black. And you just pump out the water. Basically, I have a little tube here. You can see how gnarly that tube is because that's the intake valve. It doesn't matter that it's gnarly because on the outtake, you only put a clean one, but I don't even use an outtake. I just squirt it out into the bottle. But, you put this on and you filter your water. This thing will filter out practically everything. It won't filter out viruses. And so if I'm in a really bad situation like, Katrina-esque or something like that, then I would also hit it with UV. There's different ways to hit it with UV. For instance, I got these Katadyn Sterapin, right? That one broke, so I got another one that came today, actually, because Katadyn makes these too, and they replaced it for free. So this came today. So this is a UV light that will deactivate the viruses and kill bacteria. It works at 254 nanometers. Actually, I think 253.7, if that matters to you. And basically, you just take that bad boy off and you put it in your water bottle and you press the button here. You press it once if it's a liter and you press it twice if it's a half liter. And it just goes like this. I'll show you. So I'll press it just twice because it'll go for about 30 seconds, right? Here we go. 1, 2, right? See the green light's on. And now watch. I'll put it in here and now it'll light up. You see how it's lit up? I'm not going to put it on top of my computer. See, it's lit up there. Now it's on because the UV is deactivating the viruses and killing the bacteria. And that'll go for about 30 seconds. Make sure to stir it up. The geometry of your water bottle can make a difference. If it's this long, high water bottle like this, make sure you stir it. But if you get the shorter water bottles, I like those better. But just stir it up. And make sure you've already filtered it. This water is clean. It's just the bottle looks milky in color, but it's actually crystal clear water. But you just stir it up, and then this light will eventually go out. When that light goes out is when the water is safe to drink. Make sure you don't drink the water off the lip of the bottle if that's contaminated. Okay, now it's done, right? And so now that's been all the viruses and bacteria in there should be completely toast. Yeah, and that's it. And often I'll use that also if I'm in a place like India. I'll use it with whatever water. Even if I get bottled water, I'll still hit it with that, or I'll filter it. I don't drink bottled water in countries like India without filtering it and or hitting it, even with UV. I don't play around. But if you get into a bad situation where you need, it's a hurricane or earthquake or that tornado that just happened, the last thing you want to have is a water shortage. And right after that is you don't want to have to drink water that's got cholera in it, obviously. So any questions? And you're most welcome, Janet. Yeah, that's right. I'll drink that water. Let's see. I just purified it. Oh, really? Who's on here commenting? Let me see. Where is he at? Okay. All right. And now Blaine is saying he thinks the Facebook quality is better than here. Really? I think it's 10 times better here than on Facebook. The video quality and the audio. Hey, Mark. Oh, yeah, man. You want to talk about what happened in that firefight? We just got in from, hey, Mark. You can say what happened. We just got in from that firefight with Op Arezzo, right? Op Arezzo. I thought that firefight, I didn't think it was going to go right because remember the commander was like, he gave the op order, and he was like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I was like, this isn't going to work out. It's too complicated. You know how it goes. Something always, just, how combat is. And I was just like, it's too complicated. Something's not going to work out right. But remember, he was like, we're going to hit these targets over here. And then the enemy's going to try to draw us down this road. They're going to shoot at us down this one road, right? And we're going to be right beside that road. So we hit those 2 targets. And then they did started to shoot at us down that road. They started to shoot at us. And a couple of the British soldiers are like, hey, they're doing exactly what the commander told us, said that was going to happen. They're going to shoot at us down that road. They're going to try to draw us into an ambush down that road. We're not going to do it. And I was like, wow, they really seem to be trying to draw us down into an ambush. So we pulled out, just like the commander said. What was his name? Marchinsky or something like that. Anyway, so we pull out to the position that he said to pull out to, which was slightly out of their range, out of their effective range, and well within your range with that machine gun and the other machine guns and the other weapons that we had or you guys had. My weapon was a camera. I used to take your picture, man. Good job that day. But, there was thousands of bullets flying around, as you remember very well, RPGs and all that stuff. Didn't somebody get hit with an IED too? Or 1 or 2 IEDs? I don't remember. Anyway, and killed, you guys killed like 28 or 30 or something, as I recall. And, but we didn't take any casualties, man. You guys did a great job. That was a really great job. And then we came in, man, it was hot as hell. Remember that? We came back on base. And your vehicle was just filled with brass, man. I got photos of that. It was like you guys were like walking on brass. You couldn't even touch the floor. All the brass, thousands of rounds that you guys shot. And then you took your helmet off. And you had that look on your face. You remember that? And that was when I took one of the coolest pictures of the war. You did a great job, man. You should be proud. Your whole unit was unbelievable. Then I went with your unit off in Afghanistan, by the way, but I didn't see you there. Yeah, man. You guys did great. Oh, wow. You got hepatitis from water in Hawaii. Okay. Yeah, that's not an M249. I think that's a mini-me. Mark, that's a mini-me, right? That's a British machine gun. If there's anybody commenting on Facebook, I am not seeing your comments. The only comments that I'm seeing pop up are on YouTube. And that's it. That's it. I think that is a mini-me, Sarah, but you need to ask the British. It's not an M249, Sonny. It's not that. What water was I drinking from? Are you talking to me? Oh, you're probably talking to Barbara, who got hepatitis A from Hawaii. I was wondering, there's so many climates in Hawaii, though. Bring that too. Where did you get water with hepatitis in it? Hawaii's unbelievable. A lot of people think Hawaii is just like, beaches and stuff, but Hawaii's got desert. It's got tundra. Hawaii's got tundra. People snow ski in Hawaii. People don't even know that. It's got the biggest mountain in the world. Mauna Kea, right? I've been to the top of that thing a couple of times where all the observatories are. Unbelievable. On the big island, right? Hawaii. And just on that island, there's like rainforest, desert, tundra, of course, the beach. I think I'm not sure, maybe 7 major ecosystems or 9. I don't remember, but it's like the marine ecosystem up to the beach. And Hawaii is unbelievable. People don't really, unless you go to Hawaii and like island hop for a few islands, you don't realize what kind of paradise that place really is. Out of all the a lot of people ask me, what's my favorite place in the world, which is very hard to say because the world has got a lot of, well, actually, I love northern Italy until this happened. Will still be a good place when it's finished. But Hawaii, if you just want to see a lot of great stuff in a short amount of time, and it's just absolutely fantastic, man, Hawaii is hard to beat. Hawaii is hard to beat. Yeah, Hawaii's got the rainiest place in the world, I think, is in Kauai, right? On Kauai. The cannibal used to live there. He used to live on Maui, where Don girl, and also he lived on Kauai, and also he lived on Oahu. and some other places. Let's see. Yeah. RW says reports are saying South Korea has brought infection rate way down. Good news? Yeah, oh, yeah. I mean, it looks like it might be legit too. That's because South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore have all had proactive governments, and they have social discipline, and they have highly intelligent citizenry that are well educated and who are not confused that this is the flu. So they've got all these things going for them. So, I mean, they got highly educated people that realize this is not the flu. They realize they need to wear masks. They realize they have to use social discipline to have part of a herd immunity. As somebody last night came on, she was like, you don't understand herd immunity. You got to have at least 80% of the people, blah, blah, blah. She didn't know what the hell she's talking about. Yeah, there's herd immunity from the immunological perspective and the amount of people that have the immunity on the biological level, it is important, and it's not 80%. It's numbers around there. It depends. It depends on different variables as well. Like measles is different than, and polio is different. But also there's other parts of it. There's social aspects. For instance, for people that in low density populations or people that have high cultural, like Japanese, have high cultural discipline, right? So Japanese can, thread some needles that other cultures won't be able to do because Japanese will be disciplined as a group for that time, right? And as will, obviously, we've seen Singaporeans and also Taiwanese and South Koreans and Hong Kongers. Yeah. Well, medical professionals here, obviously, that come on tend to have a much more real, although believe it or not, some doctors and nurses are still, a month ago, I was like, you won't see many doctors and nurses in denial about this, but there actually are some, but any who are soon will not be. Yeah, as Surdip says, unfortunately, it seems like some of the good numbers coming out of South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan are being used by some in Canada and U.S. to justify their complacency. Yeah, we're not even being, in addition to not being proactive, we're hardly even being reactive in a lot of cases. We're like missing out on both boats. I mean, our reactivity is so far behind the curve that it almost doesn't matter. I mean, containment's out of the question in the United States at this point. I mean, people that keep talking about containment, they're just wasting more time. I mean, at this point, it's down to mitigation. It's down to damage control because our hospitals, chances of our hospitals being overwhelmed by May are super high in the United States. And there's no reason for that. But that will probably, according to the infectious disease experts, raise our case fatality rate through the roof. And why did it happen to happen? I mean, we're going to pay for a lot of our own sins in the United States by not having affordable medical care for most of the population, right? Because people just can't go. If you got 3 or 4 kids and you can't afford even one to take to the emergency room, and the kids probably aren't going to die anyway, and you have to go to work anyway, and you're like 34, so you're in a low risk group, and you can't afford not to go to work, and you can't afford to go to the emergency room, what are you going to do? You're probably your family cluster with everybody infected, probably none of them are going to be quarantined, and unless you really have good discipline, and you are probably going to go to work. I mean, because we don't have the mechanisms that allow people to go home and get sick leave for this. And we are at a moment strategically, we are at a real war at this point. A million Americans easily could die from this, which would be more Americans died in the 1918 flu pandemic, the Spanish flu, than died in World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, and Iraq and Afghanistan wars all combined. That's amazing when you think about it. I think maybe more died in the Civil War, or it was close. But when it, because our Civil War was the worst war the United States ever had, and we could easily have another one if our economy collapses. You miss Spider-Man. I got Spider-Man right up here, actually. Uh-oh. If I pull Spider-Man down. I like Spider-Man, But it doesn't fit in the picture, I still keep Spider-Man with me at all times, There you go. But it just doesn't. But Spider-Man's always with me. All right. Okay, let's see. What is Jerry saying? Jerry, I previously told you that I ordered a Katadyn pocket water filter on February 28th. Originally, my delivery date was March 15th. Then I got an update that I would get it on March 4th. Now my delivery date is back to March 17th. I also ordered purification tablets. That order has been completely canceled by them. Hopefully, I'll get the filter before we get any power outages here in Lutz. Not worried about running out of water. There's a pond right in front of my condo, which is drying up quickly in this dry season. Much bigger lake about 100 yards away. Yeah, man. Just make sure, and a UV filter can be very helpful. I hope you get your filter in time, and I think you'll actually realize how good. Wow, there's comments coming in finally from Facebook, and they were gone for a long time. Now Facebook comments are showing up again, which is strange. Bobby says, wash your hands, stay away from large crowds, and buy plenty of toilet paper. Use newspapers. Well, I mean, chances are most of us are going to be exposed to it. And actually, according to Dr. Gabriel Leong, and he's an expert Hong Kong medical researcher and doctor who is an expert on coronaviruses, he says up to 60% of the population on Earth may get it, which could translate into, 60 million dead, something like that. It could be a huge number, but there's so many variables in here that even experts like him, with all the available computers, there's just too many wild card variables that nobody can account for, because first of all, they don't know all the variables. They don't even know if it's seasonal yet. We're not going to know if it's seasonal until the season's, we're into the season, that it's going to decrease. Not all of these die off with the summer. And by the way, when they die off, it doesn't mean they end. They just reduce in number. And then the second wave, which will come in the next colder season, those are usually bigger, like the Spanish flu of 1918 was substantially larger. I was watching Steve Bannon's show tonight, Pandemic, which I think is the single best show on this, because he goes into politics and he goes into economy and finance and other issues that are, so he hits it in many different angles. And he mentioned something. Do you know anybody who's actually, because they always talk about how many tens of thousands of people died from the flu every year. But do you know anybody yourself by name and like date who actually died from the flu? And when he asked that question, I was like, I didn't touch my face. Notice I got close. But who do I know that's died from the flu in my whole life? You would think, I would know somebody, but when he asked that question, I had to think, I don't know. I don't know anybody that crosses my mind who actually died from the flu. How about you? Do you know somebody by name? Really know somebody that you are sure that died from the flu? If not, that's kind of strange, because Steve said he asked a lot of people and everybody was like, nope, I don't know anybody. Yeah, and Iris Law saying no. Dawn Girl, no. I don't know. None come to mind for me either. None at all. Huh. Hey, Iris, I hope everything's good in Hong Kong. I'm watching you guys 24/7 when I'm awake. I'm always checking Hong Kong about once an hour. You guys are incredible. Hong Kongers. Okay. Barbara says she knows someone, but you're a nurse, Barbara, right? Um, let's see. Who do you know, Robert Jennings, who died from the flu? I mean, I don't know anybody. It's kind of strange. Um, okay. Okay. Yeah, Tommy's saying, I guess you have seen the first fights over toilet paper. I've seen a lot on video. They're, people like me who are preppers, this is the kind of stuff that we watch on television, like, the Black Thursday. What's that day called right after Thanksgiving where everybody goes and beats everybody up at the Walmart? You know what I'm saying? What's that day called? Right after they got all the sales and everybody lines up for 4 hours and then they fight over something. And I never go to those. I just watch them on TV. And like this, I mean, when people start killing each other over bags of rice, I will not be doing it. I mean, I've got all I need. Okay. Black Friday. Oh, not Black Thursday. So it's Black Friday. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, Mike is saying in the morbidity or actually mortality is what you're talking about. Mortality. What's unknown? Nobody knows. I mean, what the mortality is going to be, and that will depend on so many different factors that even people like Gabriel Leong, he'll tell you he doesn't know. I mean, actually, we're never going to know, even after it's all said and done, which it may be never because it's endemic now, probably. At best, they'll be able to take good estimates. Like for instance, every year, how many people die from the flu? Those are just estimates. Nobody actually really knows. Okay. Okay. This is like Mark and Kathy Haza saying, uh, Washington is a hot mess. There are 2 hospitals full because of virus. Which Washington? I think you're talking about Washington State, right? Because I keep following some issues in Washington State. Um, and by the way, if anybody wants to take off now, you're probably not going to miss anything vitally important. I'm just chatting with people and reading questions and trying to learn from people because often somebody make a comment and I take a note and I study it when we go offline. Let's see, what is Eric saying here? Johns Hopkins University map is showing far less red dots today than it was yesterday, but confirmed cases are higher. For instance, in Kansas. Okay, Eric, we can't trust Johns Hopkins on China, of course, because those are China numbers. But in America, we haven't tested almost anybody yet. So we're not going to even have any even halfway reliable numbers probably for a month. And I don't even know then. I was trying to figure that out today because they're just shipping those test kits. How long is it going to take them to do the test and then, you know, test the test, get the results and publish those? I don't know, but it's not going to happen in a week. I mean, we're not going to, how long does it take? I mean, we've got 330 million people. Let's say we're going to test at least 1 million, I would hope. I mean, we should be testing a lot more than that, like 10 million, to get some real serious baseline of what's going on here. And how long will it take? I don't know. The statisticians will have to, and the infectious disease experts will have to say how many we really need to test to have reasonably accurate numbers. But we certainly don't have them yet. And many of the people that are dying now from the flu could be dying from this. I mean, who would know? I mean, who would know if somebody just died from this? Somebody just write off it was the flu, but it could have been really actually the China plague. Let's see. Anchors away videos. Judith, Russia, not Rusland. Let's see. Yeah, that's a problem. We just don't have the test yet, Eric. We got to give them some time. And that's one thing that's of major concern because we don't know how big the problem is in the United States yet. I think if we did, then schools would all be closed by now. They should be closed. That the schools are still open, borders on, I mean, criminal negligence. I'm not, I don't know if it would, meet that standard legally, but certainly morally. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my security. Let's see. What is Kim saying? I'm just answering questions, by the way, and reading. I'm not, everything I wanted to say is basically said. So if you're not going to miss anything if you take off now, other than listening to us chit chat back and forth, which I enjoy because I learn a lot. Let's see. Eric Collins, yes, and it took Rusland, a little town, 200 infected, no deaths. Yeah, like Danny Hood is saying, tracking the Johns Hopkins from 27 Feb, third time the rates are doubling around every 4 days. Yeah, I've been looking at that too, and I check that every day. Excuse me. Not symptomatic, shouldn't be. Just talking too much. But it is about every 4 days, isn't it? And that is so fast. At that rate, the bulk of the United States will have millions of patients or infected, let's say, by May. At that rate, it's just math. At that rate, well, I mean, this is exponential. So, let me say again, if for those who haven't studied much math and aren't really cognizant of what exponential growth or decay actually is, you can learn a great deal. Just get there's one good guy on a show called Peak Prosperity. His name's Chris Martinson, and he's a good teacher, and he's a pathologist. He's not practicing anymore, but over time he's given a lot of financial advice. But he also, now that this has happened, he's kind of lifted and shifted, and he's talking a lot about the disease and finance stuff. And he's actually done numerous videos on exponential functions. And to understand why people like me back in January were like, whoa, because I was covering the insurgency in Hong Kong. And I said, oh, wow, if this is real, then this is the new biggest thing in the world for sure, this virus. And that was why you see me phase over from the Hong Kong insurgency, which I still follow hourly in Hong Kong. But now realizing that this is the biggest thing that's ever happened in my life, and hopefully will be the biggest thing that ever happens, because if anything's bigger than this, I don't want to see it, unless it's like aliens landing and they happen to be friendly, and they have better pizza. Let's see. But yeah, make sure to look up exponential functions. And if you're homeschooling your kids and you haven't taught them exponential functions, make sure to do that. I mean, it's something that I was aware of since I was a little kid, because I studied so much physics and chemistry and that sort of thing. And if you're going to study things like that, or, so many things. I mean, whether you're going to go into the business world, or you're going to go into medicine, or you're going to go into physics or chemistry, or so many things, it's very important to understand exponential functions. And it's not super duper ultra high math that you have to, have a PhD to do. I mean, ninth graders can do it if they're way ahead of the curve. But or for somebody like me, more like high school. But I mean, it's something that's well within your grasp. But actually, even if you have very little math background and aren't even good at algebra at all, or can't really do algebra, you can still understand the concept of exponential functions within 4 or 5 minutes of just watching, like Chris Martinson on one of his videos, or there's other people that explain them as well. And then you don't need to know how to calculate it yourself. That takes a little practice. But if you want to just understand the concept, 4 or 5 minutes, 5 minutes, really 6, 7 minutes max, you'll actually increase your level of understanding about this virus and why people like me are like, stop and focus on this thing, so quickly, because we understand what the implications of this exploding exponentially actually mean. They are tremendous. especially when it's got a doubling rate of maybe every 4 days. That's like a Hollywood speed explosion, like a real explosion in real life is like bang, it's like that, right? Well, it's like, maybe 20,000 feet per second or something. It's super fast, right? But a Hollywood explosion goes like this, and Bruce Willis runs from the explosion, right? Well, this is happening at that speed. This is like a Hollywood speed explosion. This exponential doubling every 4 days. That's basically what this is doing. It's an explosion. I mean, when you look at exponential curves in the beginning, like back in December, it looks like, oh, there's not that many cases. It's not that big of a deal. And then people start saying, no, this is the doubling rate. And then you're like, oh, what, really? And then you start to realize in December that it's real. And that's why in January, I was like, oh, this could be huge. And then by sometime in January, I was like, wow, this could cost President Trump the re-election. I was saying that. You can see it on the Jordan Harbinger interview in January. So when we made the interview, he aired it in February, but I was saying that clearly because I realized that this was going exponentially and the doubling rate was really fast. I didn't know what it was, but now it looks like it might be about maybe every 4 days, which is really like a Hollywood speed explosion. It's super fast. At this rate, the United States will have millions of cases by May. So I don't know. The different people are doing different calculations, but it's going to be massive by May, and our hospitals could be overrun much sooner than that. But I would certainly expect by May our hospitals in the United States will be overwhelmed, and then the case fatality rate will skyrocket. And yeah. Can I activate the viewer counter on YouTube? I don't know. Is there one? That you're even asking that, Tommy, indicates that there must be a viewer counter on YouTube. If you can send me a private message on how to do that. I won't do it this time because I'll have to look at that when I'm not live streaming, but then I'll try to activate it right time. It is a very big deal, Irish law, and you know that because you're a Hong Konger, and Hong Kongers study a lot of math. And that's why another reason why Hong Kongers get this so quickly. I mean, I was out with you guys for 6 months in the fighting. I'm like, these people are smart. I mean, like bizarrely sophisticated as a group, and and having a lot of, even the average person has some basic but fundamental understanding of global geopolitics. And also it's very simple to talk with like an average Hong Konger about like exponential functions and expect that you know what I'm talking about, or that somebody knows what you're talking about. And so that's why I think that Hong Kongers have been so effective at mitigating the impact so far, and also how quickly you have been able to effectively politically fight the Hong Kong and CCP, Hong Kong government and Chinese Communist Party onslaught. Your ability to fight with your minds is extraordinary. I've been learning a lot about insurgency from Hong Kongers that I haven't seen other insurgents do in different countries. You guys are the best mind fighters I've ever seen. You're unbelievable. You're like, I should like bottle you up and sell Hong Kong insurgency ideas, especially on information war. That's what you're really good at. Let's see. Eric Collins is saying, I began stocking up on food, water, and PPE. Which is like mask and other things, personal protection equipment, more than 4 weeks ago because of your daily videos. Most I know have not even considered it and are wondering why shelves are emptying. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did. It makes me happy, actually. When people say that they actually did it because they got it here, it makes me happy. Then I feel like I did something, because I don't know if this is true, but a guy told me, a friend of mine years ago, he told me there was a study of these psychologists, did a study of, they were paying people to hit a tree with an axe handle, and one had the axe head on it and one had an axe handle, and they get paid the same amount of money no matter what. You just try to hit that tree for an hour or whatever. And the people that they get paid the same amount no matter what, hitting the tree. But the people that are just hitting the axe handle on the tree would quit a lot sooner, even though they're all getting paid the same amount. But the ones with the axe head would keep chopping because they were making progress. They would chop and a wood chip would fly out. They keep right on chopping because they felt like they were making progress. And I don't know if that was true, but I can see that with me. When I see people actually do something like make a change, sorry about that, it gives me energy. Or somebody like donates $2, you're like, good. Somebody's taking it seriously enough to actually go hit my Patreon. They actually really, believe it, that it's worth their time. And so it makes me, wake up earlier and go to bed later because I keep studying. Danny Hood is saying, I can't see it because it's just a link. I'll have to look at it later when I go offline. But Chris Madden is saying, okay. I don't know what you mean. Let's see. The greatest failure of human race is our inability to understand the exponential function. Who said that? It was some scientist, right? Who said that? Who said that? Mike Talcott? It was some scientist. The greatest failure of the human race is our inability to understand the exponential function. And luckily, since I was a little kid, I was always studying physics because I'm still like, I should have been a physicist, but I can't sit still, man. I got to go off to a war or chase cannibals or something. But in reality, the one thing I really love is just like science and physics. But I just got too much energy, man. I got to roll out there. And but luckily though, that sidekick passion of mine is something that helped me, pay attention to little things like exponential functions, which is something you really should. That's like a basic thing that most people should really understand by the time they're maybe 15 years old or so, because it helps you to understand so much other stuff. Whether it's money or so many things. There's like exponential functions are just like all around you, but we think linearly, and until you've trained yourself to think. Let's see, Danny Hood. The Black Swan video. Okay. Again, if you leave this video now, I don't have much more to say. I'm just chatting with people, which I'm enjoying a lot. I'm just chatting and that's all I'm doing. Let's see. You're most welcome, Thomas. Thomas Hurst, any relation? I went to that castle. Let's see. Yeah, the masks, Nola. Those masks are important. That's why I have so many masks. I have lots of them here. I have different kinds, but I had them in advance. I didn't have to, I didn't stress the masks, except I bought hundreds that I sent to Hong Kong and others I sent to friends and others in Thailand. But I already had a bunch because I keep them on stock because they're good for not just diseases. They're good for fires or, whatever. I mean, that's just a tiny fraction of what I got. I gave most of them away, but I already had masks. I got so many, but I don't even use those. I use this one, which I was using today. I had to go back to the veterinarian for my dog Barney, so I wore this again today when I went back to the veterinarian. This one I like. My friend, who is a former U.S. Army officer, he told me the best ones are Gerson. And he told me yesterday which model of Gerson, which one is it? I told him, he sent me a link, but I don't remember which one it was. And he said the Gersons are better than the one I got. And he was like making fun of me. I was like, what are you doing? You're an Army officer. You're not supposed to make fun of people, man. Come on. And actually, he did 2 combat tours in Iraq. So he's like one of those serious people. He's an EOD guy, which makes him like super extra serious. He's like a special forces guy, but he's EOD. So I mean, he's telling me, the Gerson mask passes his quality test. So, and I never even mentioned Gerson because I've never physically seen one. I've only looked at them online. Actually, I would test one, but I've already got what I've got, and I don't want to pay them money to test one. Hey, Eric, there's my buddy Eric. Hello, sir. Eric's been out rolling on the streets, man. If anybody wants to, actually, I'm going to interview Eric at some point online. I'd like to get him on often while he's out in the streets in Hong Kong and get him on the telephone. Because, a lot of people know Eric. He's super smart. He goes to I'm looking at your comment. That's why I'm looking here and not in the camera. Because we spent months out in the fighting together, and he still goes out there because I watch a lot of the chats that he's putting up. Let's see. But Eric, he always calls me Chief for some reason because he's weird like that. All right, let's see. Oh, Mike's saying Albert Bartlett, PhD physics, is the one that said that. Well, that figures. He's the one that said the biggest failure of the human race is our inability to understand the exponential function. Is he the one that said that? Well, that would figure that he would be a physicist, because it would be somebody like a physicist that would say something like that. That's like a physicist thing to say, And every time I meet a physicist, I drive them crazy. Ever since I was a kid, I'd be like, "You're a physicist," and I'd like cling on them like a Klingon because I would want to ask them like 1,000 questions. My Sutita, my voice on YouTube should be louder than this. My voice isn't loud enough. Uh-oh. That's not good. Maybe that needs to be closer. Maybe the microphone needs to be closer, or turn up the gain. Again, I don't have much more to say. I'm just chatting with people, so you're not going to miss anything important by leaving other than listening to us chit-chat here and answer each other's questions and have fun talking. Let's see. Yeah, and if we all get like self-quarantined or whatever, we'll have a way to communicate. Yeah, N95. Let's see. Turn the settings up. Cheapo saying. Are you saying it's not loud enough? Let's see. Oh, let me turn that one. How's that? Uh-oh. How's that? How's the audio now? What kind of physics does your son do, Serdip? And where'd you get that strange handle for? It seems, I bet it means something, that strange Serdip handle on YouTube. Okay, but Tommy says plenty loud enough. Okay, I see a few red clipping over there, so that indicates I don't want it to clip. All right. Much better, Sutita says. Okay, good. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's what Barbara's saying. Barbara, the greatest shortcoming of the human race is our inability to understand the exponential function, attributed to Albert Bartlett, March 21st, 1923, in September. Oh, he died in September 2013. He was an emeritus professor of physics at the University of Colorado at Boulder. You could figure something like that. That's like a physicist thing to say for sure. So, I just read so many books by physicists. It's like will fill up my whole office, So at some point you're like, you hear stuff, you're like, that had to come from a physicist. It's like, I love the way that physicists actually talk. Now, Tommy says you have to turn it down. I think everybody's got different speakers. Dana says, love chit-chatting with like-minded people. Yeah, and I love to study. And, there's a lot of really interesting people come on my Facebook and YouTube and whatnot. And from all over the world, man, just like so many countries, except China, because, China doesn't have YouTube. But you get people from Taiwan, Hong Kong, Philippines. Love my Filipino friends. A lot of Thais. I'm not seeing very many Thais tonight. Ties are being oddly quiet. Sometimes there's a huge amount of ties come on, but right now I bet ties are, well, first of all, it's late at night here. It's 3 a.m. And so they're probably mostly in bed. Let's see. Yeah, Barbara's saying Mike isn't seeing comments on Facebook. He's seeing them on YouTube. I am seeing some from Facebook now. I don't know why it cut off Facebook, but actually I think I'm missing a lot on Facebook as well, because then I have, when I leave, usually almost every time, if there is time, when I shut down, I'll then later go back and read almost either all the comments or most of the comments, and I won't actually answer all the time because there's just, there'll be hundreds and hundreds. And actually, if you look across all the different platforms I stream to, it can be thousands. So I can't, I'll just be like trying to, learn things and see if there's, and so there's I can tell what I'm saying with that is, what I'm saying is there's so many comments that I know I don't see, because when I finish and I go off and I look later, I'm like, I only saw a couple hundred comments, but then I go on all these different platforms and there's like thousands, and those clearly didn't all stream by. What have I told people to do that you don't know? Charlene says, you'd have to go back to the beginning of this video, and then, because for the last 30 minutes we've been kind of chit-chatting, but have been talking about, water purification and the different issues in Italy and that sort of thing. Nobody will fault you for typos here. Let's see. Serdip says, I'm a retired engineering professor with an engineer son and a physicist son. I think that you guys don't have any problems with exponential functions. I think your house has no problem with math. And that's probably why you realize how serious this is. That's interesting. When I talk with scientists and I talk with engineers and certain sorts of people about this comfort women issue, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but people like you that understand math, and I'll explain this. It's an information war that's run by China that has been used to split Korea and Japan relations and do so many other things. I've written 3 books that talk about these 3. This is my 3rd book. It just came out last week, and you can find it on Amazon.jp. But anyway, I talk about the comfort women issue. That's a comfort women statue, right? And whenever, you've probably heard of comfort women before from World War II, and the sex slave narrative and all that. And most people will just buy right into it. Like most journalists just buy it hook, line, and sinker. But then when I talk to like military officers, NCOs that have actually been to a war and actually have to do something, or people that have to build something like a bridge that has to stand without falling because you have to know how to do math, you know what I mean? And people that actually launch rockets into space, and they realize, or they have to, business people that have to move stuff from A to B, they will, when I say to them, how much effort do you think it would, because the narrative from China is that 200,000 women were kidnapped in World War II as sex slaves by the Japanese, and that's one of the statues. See that sex slave statue there? They make those in Korea. I met the man and wife team that makes those statues. They make like $30,000 each on each statue, and they got hundreds of those things out there. So, well, actually, I don't know if they have hundreds, but by now it must be over 100, I would think. I don't know. Let me be careful with saying that. But it's a lot. And actually, I've got a map, but my map of where they're all at is now a couple of years old. I got it when I was meeting them, actually. But anyway, the point is the narrative is that the Japanese kidnapped 200,000 sex slaves during World War II and transported them all over the Pacific and everywhere else. So during a time of high intensity combat, when they didn't even have enough bullets or food, some Japanese soldiers were starving. The narrative is that they then stopped and kidnapped 200,000 women and transported them all over the place and had to guard them and feed them and all this stuff. And they were sex slaves. Now, at first, when I've talked to friends who are like colonels and generals and sergeant majors, and I bring it up to them, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that was terrible what the Japanese did." And I said, then I'll say, "Hold on, let's just wait a minute. You've been to war. How hard would it be for you, even with our great equipment and everything that we've got, to kidnap and transport 200,000 women and guard them without anybody knowing about it and keep it secret all the way up until the 80s, right? The war ended in 1945, and this was like kept secret up until the 1979, actually, right? When somebody wrote a book that was later proved to be false, his name was Yoshiro Seiji. Anyway, but how could somebody kidnap 200,000 women, transport them, feed them, guard them, and keep it all secret? And keep in mind, in World War II, it was a highly connected world back then. This was not Genghis Khan era on the steppes of Mongolia. You know what I'm saying? This was highly advanced world by World War II. They had telegraphs and everything, you know. They didn't have satellites yet, but it was, you know, communications was very good. Motion pictures, videos, not videos, but film, and it's just, anyway, it's ridiculous. But, you know, engineers and whatnot, they'll be like, yeah, actually, once you bring it up and you think about the math involved, how could you do that and keep it secret? It would be pretty hard. D. Bell is saying, Bannon reports today suggest we are about 10 days from ICU. United getting overwhelmed. Highly suggest keeping social interactions down to areas for 5. Yeah, I mean, I'm being very cautious when I say I think our systems will be overwhelmed by May. And I'm saying that because I'm so confident that my prediction will withstand the test of time that I'm not worried about it. What am I really thinking? I'm really thinking maybe a month. Really maybe more like a month. But but that seems kind of risky because we haven't done enough testing in the United States to know how many numbers are out there, because our CDC and the rest of our illustrious government have failed. But I think it's going to be I think it's going to be quicker than May. But I'm saying that so I feel safe that I didn't say something I'm going to have to defend later, and I will just be utter, you know, I'm giving myself a wide margin of safety. Let's put it that way. Danny Hood, Massachusetts declares state of emergency as confirmed cases triple. Live updates. Yeah. And, you know, again, we're not testing very many, so we don't even know. Yeah, I mean, I scratch my head, touch my head. Got to be careful. Yeah, you're an engineer. I mean, you know, math people that have to actually build stuff and know about mathematics, you know, the comfort women thing doesn't make sense once you lay it down to them. Lizzie says, love Steve Bannon shows. Yep, I saw it on Harold Banner. That was confirmed. Bannon does a great job. Actually, he emailed me tonight that I should call in more and give reports, but I'm not going to call in to Bannon's show. I come on his show sometimes, but I only want to call him because he's as busy as everybody else. I only want to call him when I really got something that's super important. Peter Michael Sullivan. Yes, but when the shoe drops, it will be a massive. Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about, Michael. You're talking about the testing. Oh yeah. Yeah, these intensive care, like, you know, as Bannon said, you know, we have maybe 100,000 intensive care beds throughout the United States. I saw, because I've watched every pandemic show. There's been 38 now, right? I've watched all of them. And there was a doctor on maybe, I don't know, 5 shows ago or something. And he was like, what was his name? Anyway, he seemed quite knowledgeable. He was like, we have about 100,000 ICU beds throughout the United States, and we can surge about 20,000 more, right? So that's 120,000, but about 90% are already used. So our real buffer there is like nothing. I mean, we got nothing. I mean, we're basically essentially full. Christina's saying Alabama's still at 0 cases. Go figure. Maybe nobody knows how to work a test. Well, we just haven't had enough tests. That's why. Yeah, I wonder how many people are going to be. How many health insurance providers are going to insure you right now? I would think not a lot. What is that, Tommy? Packing with gas vets, especially. What are you talking about, Tommy? Sometimes you say stuff I don't know what you mean. All right, good. Donald says audio's good on Facebook. I'm not punching any of these links right now because if I do, I don't know what it's going to do to my page. When you put links up, please actually put at least one sentence that says what it is, because that way, people can go, oh, I do want to click through, or I don't want to click through, or that's something I've already seen before, or whatever, So please actually put a link up. That can be really helpful. And also, it is very important to also put links when you mention, hey, I saw this in some place that a lot of people might be interested, but save 1,000 people a chance to hunt and peck. Eric is saying, my friend Eric, it should switch to clinical diagnosis if tests are not available. Sarge, speaking of water filter, you can use a tampon as last resort. Water filter, look it up. Actually, there's a lot of ways you can filter water. Like one way is, there's so many ways. I was going to show you something. There's so many ways. I mean, there's some ways you can just get out the basic gunk with this. You know what I mean? Obviously that's not filtering out any viruses or bacteria. But what you can do with that is, when you fill it in a bottle like this, get all the gunk out, the initial gunk, and then hit it with your UV Sterapen, right? Then hit it with this and kill the microbes or deactivate the viruses. They don't say kill viruses because there's that philosophical discussion that's forever ongoing ever since I was a kid about whether viruses are alive or not. So I don't get into that. That's like discussing whether Pluto's a planet. Somebody's going to want to fight you and you're like, oh, okay, I don't care. Pluto's a planet. Or it's not a planet. I don't care. It's Pluto. And a virus is alive or it's not alive. I don't care. It's a virus. I know one thing. I want to stay clear of them. Well, I don't know. Some of them are probably our friends. But this is the Sterapens. You can get these. They're from Catadyne. I use those, and I also use my water filter. I use them for different things. But sometimes I'll use them in tandem. Only when the water is really bad do I use both of them at the same time. But if you're going to use both of them, obviously filter first and then hit it with the UV. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Pretty rude. Did you see the video today of the Aussie guy? I guess it was Australia because they both had Australian accents. Yeah, some Americans can tell the difference between British and Aussie accents. And they're on a train and this lady coughs and the guy's like, hey, you coughed on me. And then she's like, and then she intentionally did it. And he's like, hey, did you just intentionally cough on me or something like that? And they got into a little tizzy. That's amazing. She just intentionally coughed on him. It was really obvious. Excuse me. Well, I hope I don't have that virus. If I do, I'll know soon enough. Excuse me. Sorry about that, man. Sorry. Danny Hood is saying, hey, I'm just going to say this and then leave. This thing is a weapon. You can believe what you want. Countries have intelligence agencies. Besides the U.S., I don't know if it's a weapon. I can tell you one thing. You could certainly weaponize it. Easy. All you got to do is get it and go cough on somebody. That's all you got to do. That's why I think President Trump and other politicians are absolutely crazy. In addition to every other reason in the world they shouldn't be out doing these big meetings. They're just setting bad examples. Christina Chaffee is saying Bernie just canceled Cleveland rally. LOL. Yeah. Well, the victor in this election could just be the last man or woman standing. I mean, the victor literally could be, this virus has a huge vote, multiple votes. First of all, it can just take them out, like direct action. They got coughed on or shook the wrong person's hand or hit the wrong doorknob, and boom, dead. Because, as Dr. Gabriel Leong, the esteemed Hong Kong researcher, the expert on coronaviruses, said that people over 65 are 20 times more likely to die of this virus than people under 65. How many of our presidential candidates or president are over 70? I mean, they're most, right? And there's only a handful that are under. Tulsi Gabbard, right? How old is Tulsi? She's much younger. There's a few that are younger, I believe. But anyway, it's not obvious. But anyway, the victor here could be really the last person standing. I'm not sweating. Or you mean Bernie standing? I don't know who's sweating. I'm not. It's cool in here. Actually, I should turn the air conditioner off. You're talking about, Danny Hood is talking about everyone has low immune system, D3. One thing that's very helpful in vitamin D, obviously, is go out in the sun. Also, it just makes you feel better. Like go walk in the sun or take vitamin D supplements. And vitamin D is a line of defense on this thing, is what a lot of, I think it will be. And some doctors are saying that as well. I mean, how can I know? But vitamin D is, actually, scientists have been saying that for like over 100 years on illnesses like this. So this is not anything new. This isn't late breaking stuff. I mean, the vitamin D and sunlight connection has been known for a very long time. Some scientists will say, it's about the heat and all that stuff that knocks the virus down. And there's all these different variables. But one of the variables that some scientists believe is that sometimes when things are attributed to the sun or heat, it might be a huge contributing factor is just vitamin D. It's summer and you're getting more vitamin D, and that just knocks it down a lot. But I don't know. I'm not a researcher. You got to listen to people like Gabriel Leong and things like that. That's well, Kevin, I don't know on the pets, but the dog thing did come up. I don't know. I want to be careful on that. Eric is saying anything is a weapon if you think long enough on it. Yeah, definitely. That's one. Absolutely. Like sand, throwing it in your enemy's eye, right? Okay. Christina says she's 64 and a half, so she's safe. You're super safe. You have a minimal chance, but in 6 months, that danger is just going to skyrocket. Yeah, Donald is saying that on the. Yeah, so many people are just saying this. Notice you don't see a lot of Hong Kongers saying it's just the flu. They're just too educated for this. That it just doesn't. And then the president comes out. He's done a great job on a lot of things, but not on this in particular. But when it comes to immigration, I really like what he's done. When it comes to China issues, great. Actually, I wish he were more hard on Chinese Communist Party. But on this virus, not doing well at all. Eric is saying general well-being also usually translates to more active immune system. Oh, yeah. Stress. I mean, the researchers will often say that if you're under a lot of stress, your immune system becomes depressed. And obviously, exercise can make you feel better. So maybe these come hand in hand. Yeah, Dana Dean. Yeah, I mean, it's going to hit every state in the country, including Pennsylvania. I don't know if was Raheem Kassam tested this morning? I don't know. Oh yeah, Sir. True. The greatest weapon ever is definitely the human brain. Yeah, the CBRN filters, which are the chemical, biological, radiological. Those are like military style. They're quite, they'll actually even get the viruses out. Yeah, I go out and get sunlight and vitamin D. I'm going with vitamin D and vitamin C. Let's see. Nola's saying, heard on the news today, one fellow on board a ship hasn't been cleared because the virus is still in him after 30 days. Can you put a link on that, please? Okay, Jan is mentioning something extremely important and something we should talk about at every broadcast. We aren't going to have meds necessary for emergencies. Our medical community is very concerned. Yeah, and Jan's not just saying that randomly. More than 80% of America's critical medical supplies come from China. And China has already threatened us. They've done it in the Chinese Communist Party way and been somewhat subtle about it, but it's not really subtle. If you see, that's the way they communicate. They've overtly threatened to withhold medicines to the United States during this vital time, which would be an absolute act of war, of course, which they've been at war for us for years. And that's the way they roll. And we should accept that and do everything possible to destroy the Chinese Communist Party. Everything. Okay. All right. Let's see. I may go ahead and leave soon, and I'm gonna be reading more in a book called China RX, China Prescription, and I don't have a copy of it here because it's a ebook, and otherwise I would show it to you. But and what's her name? The doctor. Oh goodness. Anyway, she's really a good writer, and I've seen her on Steve Bannon's show quite a few times, and she goes into detail explaining many of the pharmaceuticals that China makes and some of the problems they've caused, like killing patients in the United States, and the United States doesn't even make penicillin anymore, and how they make so many of our APIs, which is the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which even if they don't make the drugs, they can make the APIs. And so in any case, that's necessary. So Debo saying, yes, Mike, Raheem was tested this morning and gives a really informative step-by-step on the process via the tweet thread. Then he did a Periscope recap. He will show the test results in 48 hours. Oh, that's interesting because I was wondering when did he say that, because I watched Pandemic tonight and I watched the other show that comes on before that, War Room, and I didn't see him mention it, but you said he's doing it on his Periscope. So I'll check him out. That guy's pretty smart, actually. Let's see. Georgine Madigan Stoner. Hey, Dana, me too. I'm tracking our numbers company to Hong Kong. Hong Kongers wear the mask. 1 week ago, Hong Kong had 100 cases. Today, they have 118. Same time period. USA had 102 cases. That number is now 808 in 1 week. So much for masks not helping. Oh, yeah. Hong Kongers are just generally quite educated, and they have a high, again, cultural discipline that a lot of in America have the cultural discipline, but America has so many different cultures, and we have some cultures that just don't. I mean, we have some cultures in the United States that are just basically walking trouble and don't care about anybody but themselves. And so, that's a problem within the United States, especially on an issue like this. Sing Kwok says, drives me nuts when the U.S. government downplays this. It's going to kill many people. There's still a shortage of testing available. Oh, yeah. Our government has completely failed. A lot of people are blaming this only on Trump, though, but it actually clearly the problem started at least many generations ago, because we've had much time to have at least a strategic mask storage right around the country. We don't have that. And also, people keep talking about, oh, they were cutting the funding for the pandemic. First of all, President Trump can't cut funding, right? You just can't do that. People keep sending me links about how he cut funding of CDC. I'm like, don't you get it? The president doesn't cut the budget like that. It's like, it just doesn't happen. And so in any case, how much budget do you even need when me, a simple writer in Hong Kong, realized in January that we had a problem? How many more billions of dollars does the CDC need to figure that out in advance? They don't. They have all the expertise they need. I figured it out from the streets of Hong Kong, and a lot of other people figured it out as well without billions of dollars. We figured it out by just common sense and basic education and paying attention. And then the president comes out and he starts saying it's just the flu, so he just adds to the problem. Let's see, Dave Boyd. Yes, Mike, Raheem was tested this morning and gives a really informative step-by-step on the process via tweet thread. Then he did a Periscope. Okay, we'll have to see that. Okay. Yeah, Georgine Madigan saying that 808 number, which is the people in the United States who have been diagnosed positive with this virus, she's saying the number will skyrocket once they start proper testing. Oh, I'm sure it's going to. One can of Brunswick Kippers has 80% of RDA of vitamin D. Brunswick Kippers. I'll have to check those out. Hey, Kazuki Masai. That's D3. They're talking about vitamin D. Vitamin D, which you can just, if you web search D3 or vitamin, just look up vitamin D and you'll see a lot of things about D3. Jana Thacker. I saw the same interview. All right. Let me see what Eric has to say. It's more than mask. It's also the hand washing and every other hard lesson that was learned. It would seem the lessons offered by Hong Kong is not being heard across the Pacific. Oh, no. Oh, Kipper Herring sort of saying, no, the United States and the United Kingdom and Italy, obviously, Iran. The people who've learned lessons were clearly Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, and it looks like South Korea. And everybody else pretty much just blew it up so far. Like including China. If China had, and then China's now trying to take credit on how well they did. That's how their information war works. I mean, they'll try to spin this like China just saved the world. Trump and Melanie Cargill, Trump and Pence held a conference with the health, Durant CEOs, and copays will be waived and coronavirus tests will be free. I want to be careful with that. I want to look into the details. Because what happens if you go in there and they want to test you for a lot of other stuff first? Because I want to know the actual details of this. I don't want the sound bites. I want to know, can somebody really walk in off the street with 4 kids and get everybody tested and really not pay if they can't afford it? That's important to know. But would you even do that, let's say, if you have to have your job, knowing that you got to feed these children and that being diagnosed positive, and let's say you're only 35, so your chances of dying or even getting terribly sick are pretty, low enough that you'd give it a chance. How many people would take the chance that they'll then have to leave their job? See, that's a problem that we have in the United States is our structure We don't have we don't have the same sort of cultural net, or the financial net that can meet this situation, and it's something that would have to be done super fast. Eric saying China did not do it for the rest of us. They did it for themselves, but there are still lessons that can be learned. Yeah, well, they did it pretty late. They did it pretty late. I see D-Boy saying here in the U.S., nearly everyone is dismissing this. I get so many messages from people that are dismissing it. Yeah. Well, they won't dismiss. Right now, they're calling people like us. You know what they're calling us, but soon they won't, and then they'll. I've seen one. He's actually a British journalist. Despite all the mounting and evidence, and he's a really smart guy, he continues to just dig deeper and deeper and deeper, digging his heels in, like completely convinced that this is just all going to blow over. I just don't get it, man. It's like the elephant foot is about to step on your head, and he's like, it's just a fake elephant. It's there you go. Christina Chaffee is saying, I have 7 30-ish kids and their spouses locally. All say I'm crazy and this is not real. Nobody is prepped. I've had to prep for their stupidity. They will soon see. Yeah, they will. And then when the kids get older, they'll be like, Mom told us. Mom told us. We should have listened. Barry saying, already spoke of the Russian fables. Just seen the Johns Hopkins map. I do not believe it. 10 confirmed, 0. Johns Hopkins is way off. Johns Hopkins is using, they're using the numbers they've got. They got numbers from China, which nobody believes. But everybody keeps reciting those numbers because Johns Hopkins does. And then they cite American numbers, which we know America is just not doing any serious testing still. Should be soon. Hey, from Texas. Let's see. Mary. Michelle Goslin Baker. Most of the restaurant workers don't have insurance. Probably won't be tested for fear of losing job. Continue to cook and serve the public. Yeah, all restaurants should be closed in the United States. Should be closed right now. Should have been closed already. It's either pay me now or pay me a lot more very soon. And we have elected collectively to most countries, but Hong Kong, much more intelligent, Taiwan, Singapore, and South Korea all have jumped right on this tiger and started fighting it. But everybody else is just like, don't worry, be happy. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Peter Michael Sullivan says he's a next big stock market dip. I'm researching biggest maker of body bags and investing is probably a good idea. Waffle House tested positive. That's a tragedy to me is that Waffle House test. I wish there was a Waffle House here in Thailand. I tell you what, man, there's days I want to fly back to America just go to a Waffle House. I'm not even joking. I mean, I would basically fly back to America just to go to a Waffle House. You ever just jonesing for a Waffle House? Man. Eric Falk probably isn't going to let you come out of this unscathed, but it's going to buy time and lower the curve and make sure that the hospital bed demands don't skyrocket. Right. Yeah. I mean, all the infectious disease experts say that doing what, like the mitigation efforts that Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan have successfully apparently been doing, doesn't really decrease the total number of people that get infected, but it reduces that spike so that hopefully you don't overwhelm your hospital system, and so that a lot more people survive. And so, yeah, I'm sure I can get cheap tickets to the United States now. Chicken and waffles. You've been to America, man. Chicken and waffles. Well, they do have chicken and waffles. Actually, they got good steak and eggs, and they have good waffles too. Let's see here. Barry Hendelson. And why crash stock markets? Just freeze the financial world, get people food and housing, work with all the precautions, no money needed. I don't know. But I know one thing. If I were you and you haven't stocked up on food yet, you better get off of this feed right now and go get stocked up right now. And I mean at least a month. I think a month is bare minimum. Jan Benning, never been to a Waffle House. Guess I've been deprived. Yeah, I mean, seriously. That's like saying you never been to Waffle House? Man, I feel sorry for you, Jan. What else can I say? Let's see. Not been to Waffle House. Debo, my kid's high school is still taking their senior trip to Greece next week. What? No. I would not let your kid go. No way. No way. Absolutely not. There's no way. There's no way. Yes. Danny Dan is saying, yes, I can believe the Suarez town is backward. I am so irked. Now I'm forced to go up to the media outlets and the Department of Health. This is beyond unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. Iris is saying, don't go that trip. You must be talking about that Greece trip. There is no way that you should let your children go to Greece at this point. I think the best thing for everybody to do at this point is to find where you want to be for the next few months and get there right now. In the case that, look how Italy right now, they've already apparently started making people show documents internally on the streets as they did in China. Apparently, from what I was hearing just hours ago, they still don't have all the measures in place, like all the roadblocks and whatnot. But they're already making people fill out papers like, why are you going? And they're only letting you travel for various specific things, like you're returning home or some kind of very important business. Like China shut down on internal travel. Nola Adams, why stock up if you're under 65? So if you got enough fat, you might not need to. But if you don't have enough fat, I mean, there's a very good chance that like electricity, water, supply chains can all be broken. And that's not unrealistic at all. I mean, there's, significant chance that that you won't have electricity in a couple months. We'll see. Or your water could be shut off. So you could have telecommunications problems. There's a very serious chance that your Kroger or Publix or Walmart or Costco or Sam's will not be stocked, or your Home Depot. So now it's crazy to continue to wait if you haven't stocked up yet. And it doesn't matter how healthy you are. You need food anyway. Yeah, there's really not a lot of food in our warehouses. So, I mean, the just-in-time inventory is a big, Rachel says Waffle House is okay to miss out on. No, it's not. Let's see. Biden just canceled Cleveland too. He probably just thinks that he just canceled Chicago. Eric says, when the guy who was interviewing me for a job asked me where do I see myself in the next few months, I said, under home quarantine. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Precisely. Yeah, there's no Waffle Houses in California, Jan. I mean, that was one. I love California, but the whole lack of Waffle House thing was kind of tough. Let's see. Barbara. Never seen a Waffle House in California. They were a great surprise when I traveled in the country. Yeah. Bernie Mac. Yeah, there are VAs, which is Veteran Administration Hospitals, doing screenings at the door before you are cleared to enter the VA for appointments. 15 prior to 15 minutes prior, you will have a sticker to wear while you're in VA. I think one of the questions should be, have you lied about anything to us about the standard questions? Brian is asking, do you think the heat and humidity will slow down the spread? Doesn't seem to be a huge transmission rate in Southeast Asia with the hot, humid weather. Underreporting is understood, but you would think that it was so bad social media would have more activity, especially in Thailand. According to experts like Gabriel Leong, the coronavirus expert in Hong Kong, they don't know yet if the heat is going to knock this one down or not. And we're not going to know until that time, which is coming soon. We'll know soon enough. So I certainly don't know. I mean, I'm going to have to take their research and, listen to what they say and then regurgitate it. Yeah, you can get good pizza in Thailand, but I'm certainly not ordering anything from any restaurants at this point. Eric Falk, the food doesn't have to be for you. Your neighbor could be one day, have their breadwinner come down with it, and then the kids are going hungry because they're under home quarantine. Oh, yeah. It's that serious. Oh, Barney's fine. She's sleeping out. I took her to the vet again tonight, actually, wanted the vet to look at her again, but she's okay. Yeah. Lay Frick says, I'm supposed to go to the hospital next Thursday for a test on Friday. I'm thinking of canceling. What do you think? It's just a colonoscopy. I would ask the doctor, because I don't know your situation. So you need to ask your doctor about your situation, or you have to think about your situation and ask your doctor how important it is. I would certainly ask your doctor and do it quick. Okay. All right. Well, let me go ahead. It's almost 4 a.m. here in Thailand. And I'm actually going to read my China RX book a little bit more, study up on that a little more. It's been great talking with everybody. Thank you for supporting my work. Thank you for supporting on Patreon or PayPal or Venmo or Zelle or Bank of America or Mitsubishi Bank. I can actually remember so much. Brian says, can I borrow Barney's cone to keep me from touching my face? She hates that cone, man. She hates that cone. You know how the dog, when you put a cone on a dog's head, they keep running into everything. Let me see. Iris Law saying the toilet in public is dangerous. We cover the toilet, then flush. Anyway, I'm home or public. Of course, wearing a mask. Don't put it off. You could just when eating, take off the mask. Yeah, exactly. Bye, SB. Bye, Nola. Ciao, Serdip. Bye, Iris. I hope you guys are doing well in Hong Kong. Bellingham, Washington. Brantley is saying, I would not have them in school. I would take them out right now. Right now. No, I would like not even to school. Guten Abend. That's one way to spell it. Unless that's Dutch. Guten Abend. Guten Morgen. It's Morgan here. Yeah. Good, Lay. All right. Bye, Kevin. See you guys. Mike out. And end broadcast.